Hey, I'm Dana DiLorenzo, and you're you. And these guys, well, they're them. And who are they? Well, you're listening to them. You're listening to the Suns and Shadows podcast. Subscribe and listen, or else.
I was there for a lot of it. I feel really horrible.
You were there for a lot of it. By that you mean you remembered when you watched it the first time, or?
Some of it, yes. Well, very little bit of it, yes. But I was a lot more engaged with the stories than I thought I was gonna be.
Oh, okay.
I enjoyed this season more than I thought I was going.
For me, it was like hit and miss. Like every time it was a hit, it was really good. Whenever it missed, it was really bad. There was no middle ground. There was no a single or a double or a triple. It was either a grand slam home run or it was like strikeout.
It really was. And it's like I told Brandy, I'm like, the shitty thing is you don't know when it's going to be good and when it's going to be bad. Not even per episode, because like half the episode could be great. The other half could be absolute dog shit where you're like,
oh, yeah.
Are they going to fix the cable?
Oh, God. Or are they going to rent out the loft yet again?
That was lazy. That was the laziest bit of writing.
That was fucking horrible. I hated that episode. The first episode they did with the loft was fine, but the second one was just fuck off. And probably the worst part is because it was sandwiched next to each other. And they played it like a two-parter. Whereas with other episodes that were kind of like that, they were more like at the beginning of the season and then towards the end of the second half of the season. So at least it felt spread out. Like I felt like they had some editing issues.
Yes, they mixed and matched weirdly with the storylines.
Yeah.
It didn't flow the same way as it did formulaically in the first season. Like it was always one actor in part A would show up for to be the main character in part B. This the first episode didn't have that at all. Like the two episode or part A and part B was not related at all as far as I could tell.
Right.
And then they kind of picked that back up from episode 2 or 3 on, but some of it was spotty.
Yeah.
I don't know. It seemed like the cannibals showed up in different order than what they could have. Like that could have been grouped differently.
Oh, with Tony Dow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good. Those episodes didn't even show up until like the second half of the season. And for all of our fellow listeners, yes, we are covering season 2 of Freddy's Nightmares. This is Jeff, and I got Kevin, and we're already into it, so let's keep it going.
I'm down. Speaking of that, I always remembered that from being from the first season. Like that was between
really?
Yeah, that episode and the pilot was what I really remember from Freddy's Nightmares as a kid. I did not realize that those two episodes were spread so far out.
Well, it honestly, like we had just said just a little bit ago, is like when there were hits in this show, they were really good. And it almost felt like you could take a handful of those episodes, throw them into that first season where I kicked 6 episodes out, and you'll automatically have like an incredible season of Freddy's Nightmares.
Yes. You're used to filler episodes throughout the season here and there, but this was done differently. It was off-putting.
Yeah, the filler episodes were very formula in that there was a love triangle in every filler episode, and most of the episodes were filler episodes.
Yeah, I want to say that's correct, because it really did seem like there was a love triangle in every episode. Like we talked about it our last episode, that this was like a really steamy show. We forgot about how sultry TV was back then.
It brought the sexy, and for then quite a while, sexy kind of got downgraded a little bit until we got back into the 90s, and then sexy came back around in science fiction and horror. But when this came out, it was still at peak for what we could see on TV. I mean, honestly, one of those episodes was like Red Shoe Diaries or Silk Stockings later on USA Network. And it was literally exactly like watching an episode of Red Shoe Diaries or Silk Stockings, but without like the nudity and the steamy love scenes.
Well, there was one episode, I think it was the class reunion, where they had a little nip slip. And I had to rewind it. And I know we're watching it on archive. So it's like, it's really not all that great as far as like the resolution. But I rewound it like 2-3 times just to make sure. The 4th time, because I liked it, there was a little nip slip. I liked it.
That's
I miss 80s
what was
TV.
That one?
God, it was where, I want to say it was the episode where Freddy kills his class reunion. So let's look at 12.
Oh, It's My Party and You'll Die If I Want You To. Also known as the longest title name of an episode since Farscape. And Farscape fans, you know what I'm talking about in that regard. But that was like in my notes. I legitimately wrote that down word for word. And I immediately thought, this is the longest damn title I think I've ever written down for a TV show episode. And luckily, that particular episode was fantastic. I love Freddy possessing the psychic and just going completely crazy and killing everybody, except for the poor little bellhop from earlier in the season. That was so much fun.
The bellhop and then the one kid that was nice to him.
Yep.
If you just got to know him.
Harold or something like that?
I think so.
And then he was the writer that saw the movie and made A Nightmare on Elm Street, a screenplay.
That's right. Freddie left him the rights.
He's like, now that's entertainment.
Like the bits that they had with Robert were all gold in this. Like I want to say they were even better than last season.
Even the host segments were pretty awesome too. Like they really dialed it in this season. So.
Oh yeah, I mean there was a lot more like physical gags that Freddy was doing, and it felt more like it was like a big jump from going from Nightmare 2 to Nightmare 3 and 4, where you got Freddy being that more of a rock star character making the jokes. He was doing all sorts of funny shit. And he was a beatnik at one point, the chef.
Yep.
He was a chef a couple times.
He was a doctor. He was in drag at one point. He
did
all sorts of fun. Yeah, Robert was probably like, yeah, let me have some fun with this shit.
Oh, he really was. Like, and could you imagine like being there filming this shit?
And everybody's probably cracking up in the crew. I mean, they're all pros, but every once in a while, the actors do something completely out of control and they just start cracking everybody up. And they're like, don't worry about it. We've been too serious for like the last 3 days. Time to blow off some steam for about 40 minutes. And I'm going to keep screwing with everybody.
And you know what's funny is Robert Englund, the only person that I see on the same level of him as far as energy being an actor is Bruce Campbell.
That's who I was thinking the second you said that.
They are the only two people that could push it to the max and get better and better. Like anyone else trying to ham it up, you're just like, all right, dude, fucking turn it down. These two guys.
Joke. Yeah.
Yeah, like to the point where it's like Bruce, his fucking clothes get louder every single convention that he goes to.
I know. I mean, he still has the same kind of style to him, but you are not kidding. They get more vibrant and more bold. I totally get it. It's completely fine. It kind of suits his character, but man, I like how invested they get into these roles. Like him, like Bruce with Ash, of course, and then Freddy with Robert Englund. Like this is kind of their brand identity. Like this is what they're largely known for, and they have an investment in these characters, and so they care about what happens to them next. And so that's another reason why we haven't gotten more Bruce Campbell as Ash Williams, and we haven't gotten more Robert Englund as Freddy. Not to say that we probably couldn't, but in a feature film, it would probably be a one and done. If we got it as a show like this again, like they gave us a proper reboot for this, you could probably convince him to do host segments as Freddy again, as long as he's not getting too many full episodes dedicated to Freddy, because how much more could you milk a franchise that's already been beaten into the ground a bit?
I think this show kind of really showed how to do that. Like you don't have the plot lines that involve Freddy, except for here and there, which they failed miserably in this half of the series, but that's okay. The anthology thing with the bumpers and stingers, that worked really well. And I don't know if that would have translated well to film, but it could have and would have helped if there could be things that, like, again, he's the presence there. Almost like is it the Crypt Keeper on Creep Show? Or is it the Creep?
The Creep, I think. Creeper?
Something like that. Tom Savini.
Oh, yeah. From the first movie.
Yeah. Basically, that's what I'm thinking of. Someone that shows up in the background, pretty much as Freddy does here, which another thing, they kind of did a better job integrating the transition between the real world and the dream world on this season, too.
Yeah, I felt like they got that pretty good.
Really, I think where they hit the nail on the head with it was where you were talking about with the psychic, and then later on with the priest and the lady in the solitary confinement area. They did pretty good there, like just having to switch lights and angles of the camera.
I wasn't a big fan of that particular episode, but I can see what you're saying with that.
No, and that particular episode, that's what I was saying earlier when I was talking to you on the phone. That's where I had opinions. I don't think I would have ended the series that way. If you were going to end it with something more fun, I would have ended it with episode 12, because again, that's the last episode with Freddy.
Agreed.
Or the Tony Dow episodes, just because those started out cheesy, and then by the time you got to their second story, it was so self-aware funny that it was like a complete episode dedicated to Star Trek.
Yeah, and they even had Tim Russ in there, who is known as Tuvok, and his character name was Dr. Picard, which was completely not lost on me, as well as the references to Night of the Comet, because a lot of that episode was like, I see what you're doing here. Was borderline a pretty much straight rip of Night of the Comet, where everybody turns into comet dust.
Oh, is that what that is?
Zombie. Yep, Orange Dust and Night of the Comet.
Oh, okay.
Come October, when we do our run through October, that is one of our movies for 0 Point. So
yeah, I need to put that on my order list really quick. So make sure that we. And it's not even Sunday night. Need to write that down.
But
sure I get it ordered.
No, I like your thought with putting that 12th episode there at the end, and you could have fit the Tony Dow episodes kind of somewhere in the middle. Like, ultimately, if we do a 6-pack, I got 6 episodes we can get rid of, but I would just, to tighten up the season, I'd put those Tony Dow episodes right in the middle, because that's a good kind of ratings pull. And you don't expect Tony Dow, to play characters quite like he just did in this. And I thought he did very well. And he had a very hot lady he was hooking up with. We certainly love to get into lingerie. So if you are into women in lingerie, this is the show for you.
So I'll say this about that. That is what I remember about the cannibal episode from being a kid.
Of course.
Was her and her chonies. Like, I didn't remember who it was until the other day when I watched it. And then when I saw who it was, I was like, son of a bitch. No wonder I have a thing for tough blondes. Just the lady.
Although she was pretty entertaining and very good as well herself.
She was more entertaining in this than she was in Conan, but my God, she kicked a world of ass in Conan.
Oh, yeah, she did.
Until she didn't. That was all that.
And then you put it that way. Gee, thanks.
She got fridged. I didn't do it. I didn't write it yet. Anyway.
Thank you, Indiana Jones, for fridging people.
For fridging people.
For the movie that shall not be named.
Oh, we named it on 0 Point Reviews last week, remember?
God damn it, Kevin. Keep it bringing attention to that shit. But anyways, as far as Freddy's Nightmare goes, you mentioned Tony Dow. You have any other favorite guest stars throughout the second season?
Yes. The episodes with Greta.
Oh, yeah.
The widower who was an adulteress.
Black Widow, I call her. And not the Marvel character.
Yeah, no, very much Mrs. White. That was Mary Crosby. And I had no idea that was Bing's daughter. And so I was like, well, okay, this could be nepotism. Let's see how this goes. But no, she was fantastic and wonderful. Like each different character that she played, or each different version of the character that she played, because the character was a sociopath. So she changed many times.
She was fantastic. I'd say she was probably the standout of the season myself.
Yes, I think the Greta episodes really were, because I'd always write down, oh, here comes Greta. And it starts out with her and Twiggy.
Which is pretty funny.
Or Squiggy, I'm sorry, not Twiggy, Squiggy. And I really wanted him to live longer than he did, but it was so much cooler that he died and came back as the zombie and the ghost and the nightmare. And it was just funny and funny and funny. And then her boyfriend, did you recognize who that was?
No.
Richard Eden. I
recognize his name, but I didn't look him up.
That's RoboCop from the TV series.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's like, now I know what RoboCop looks like making love to people. I'm like, didn't need that, but thank you.
That's when he was all man and no machine.
Billy, he's dead. We can pretty much do what we want.
There's a new guy in town. His name's RoboCop.
I don't know, man. Hank was a machine until he wasn't.
Hank. Yeah, I never pieced that. I recognize the name, but hey, if anybody's curious about that RoboCop, the television series, we did review that previously on Suns and Shadows. So go back to our archives and check that one out. It's a hell of a good listen.
Yes, we have Yvette in season 1, and we've got Ken in season 2. Or Richard,
so we got callbacks.
Yeah, I dug that. That was a neat part for me.
Yeah. I didn't see too much other for cameos myself. It was just a few here and there. Like, they didn't go for the names like they did much in season 1. I almost wonder if they were, because there was definitely a change in staffing, because they brought Jonathan Glassner on to do like a little bit more of the story writing and editing.
Oh,
as far as like creative staff. I don't know if he became like the showrunner per se, but I saw his name quite a bit, and I recognize his name from Stargate SG-1 that he helped co-create with Brad Wright based off of the film.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yep. I don't know. This had to have been this is clearly well before that TV show, because this was like in the 80s, and that was more in the 90s when that started up.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true. I did see a couple. One, aside from Richard Eden, oh gosh, where was he or she? Excuse me. No, I was looking for a he. There he is, Tracy Walter, who played Eugene.
Eugene.
Yeah, with Greta. I liked him. Like, that whole episode all the way around, or that series, was fun. So I really liked him. And when I see people like him or Clifton Collins, like, that's kind of a cameo to me. I know it's really not for the time, because they were just starting or still looking for work, and this was a gig. To me, it's kind of a cameo, or like, oh, hey, it's them. That was kind of nice. And then the other person was Steve Franken, who was on again twice, season 11 of MST. He played Danny in the Time Chasers.
Oh, okay.
And then McDade in Avalanche.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, and he was the radio owner.
Yeah, I was going to say the radio boss.
Yeah. Which again was another great episode. Well, sort of great episode.
Yeah, the only other cameo I kind of remembered was Wings Hauser.
Yes.
As Sonny, I believe his name was, in the one of the Greta episodes. I think it was the second one, because he was the first lover that she took his eye out, and he came back and wanted all the money. And boy, the twist ending on that, the end of that episode was so freaking good. I just started laughing, because ultimately in that episode, what happens is, you got Greta's very first love comes back after she killed Hank, Squiggy. I forgot or Eugene. I'm sorry. After she kills Eugene, her very first love comes to her, who's now married her sister, and then they show up as she's trying to escape off to go to, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, whatever. She sold the house, and they catch her just before she leaves. I know, it sounds like a freaking soap opera. And so there's the love triangle of, why did you marry my sister? I still have feelings for you, but my feelings are revenge. And ultimately what ends up happening is she keeps having bad dreams, and she somehow gets the best of Sonny and pops him off. The sister shows up, shoots her after telling her, well, I killed mom and dad. I guess killing runs in the family.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's just like, now I know where I get it from. And then she shoots her sister, and it's like, I get all the money. Bye.
Yeah, right. No men to split it with, no Greta to spend it with. It was...
I was just like, oh my God, poor girl. She should have just fucking said, you ain't staying here. Get the fuck out of my house. I'm leaving. Bye.
Kinda, or you guys could stay as long as you want. I gotta go. Deuces.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, well. If they made the show now, they probably would have tightened up the writing and done something like that.
Oh, gosh. I don't know if a show like this could survive now.
I think it could, but the platform would have to be off the beaten path. I don't think a Netflix or network TV would touch this particular show, because at this point, you almost have to go all the way with a hard R for a show like this. You can't go PG with this show at this point.
For the concept of this show, I agree. But for what this show was at the time, which is very close to exploitation film.
Yep.
Like, I don't know if there would be a market in today's world. Because again, every studio, every publisher, developer, whatever is owned by some weird parent company that has no interest in actually whatever the product is. But I 0-pointed myself for a second.
And I was drinking water, so I have no idea what you're trying to get at with that one. And he just took a swig of root beer, and he's about to cough himself to death.
No, I was about to shoot root beer out my nose. I'm good. I just quit smoking.
Well, good thing we have video. I can always throw this up later on our YouTube channel.
Hey.
Always.
Oh, no, I think what I was trying to say is like the parent companies wouldn't fund a show like this that was lowbrow, not very well written, not very well acted at all. Used very hit and miss with the actors. Like, anybody that could come in for an audition, like, sort of looked the part for the character, they would hire.
I'd go audition for this show.
Yeah. And you'd probably get it. I'd probably get it, which is not saying good things about the show, because I'm fugly and can't act.
Oh, so you'd be Eugene. Gotcha.
But I always did love her and her tight buttocks.
Just
So
put
anyway,
a whole wall around him.
I was sitting there thinking about it, like, she kind of looks like her dad. The voice mind's going, don't go there, don't go there, don't go there.
Oh, boy.
The things that I think about and say on the show.
Too true. If Freddy could do it, he'd flip you the middle finger right.
Yeah. No, but one of the things that I'm talking about is like the character of Jack, that was the little boy of the bank robber that grows up to foster Freddy's child, more or less.
Oh,
like Jack,
the Satan child.
Yes.
I called that the Omen ripoff on that half of that episode.
Oh, my notes were not kind at that at first, until I was like, okay, they're doing it on purpose. Like, and then just shoving in your face that they're doing it on purpose. Then I was kind of like, okay, in hindsight, that's funny. Let's rewind and do it again.
Yeah.
Because the first time I rolled my eyes so hard, it's like my pupils were rolling on the top of my head.
Yeah, some of these second halves or parts of episodes were just a little not good.
When it got to the gravesite that said Thorn, like my eyebrow perked up, like, that sounds very familiar.
Oh, yeah.
The jackal skeleton inside, I was like, boo!
Well, there was definitely a lot of subtle references to things. And I appreciated that.
Yes, by the end of the season, I totally dug it because they kept doing things like that. And there were less little one-off stories like you'd get with like the what was it, Beefy Boy?
Yeah, Beefy Boy.
Yeah, like there were less one-off episodes like we had with the people in the restaurant last season. A lot of what happened in this season flowed together better, or it would be like, here's people from episode 1 that are now appearing in episode 6. Here's where they are X amount of months later or whatever. Right. They made that flow together a little bit better, but some of it just really wasn't. They could have they could have rearranged it. And I keep going back to that final episode, that final 2 hours.
Oh, yeah.
They could have done better.
Yeah, but, at the same time, you had a new writing staff. They were probably just trying to figure out what sort of system they had, what their pattern now was going to be. Unfortunately, they hit up the trope well of the love triangle a little too hard and much. But if it had gotten a third season, maybe they would have found the nice balance between everything. And by that point, it would have worked. Because a lot of shows throughout their years that have gone on for multiple seasons, first couple seasons tend to be a little rough. And then by season 3 and 4, they figure it out and they get really dialed in. And they also get their best ratings at that time.
Absolutely. Smallville's a good example of that. House is
Star
a great
Trek,
example
The Next
of that.
Generation is another one.
Absolutely.
First 2 seasons are not well liked, but once it hit season 3, right on through like season 6 even. I know some people would argue season 7, but like that's the whole point. Same thing with a bunch of other shows. By the time it hit season 3, they got it dialed in, and it's usually really good.
Yeah, kind of. Like I enjoyed it one way or the other. For the most part, I enjoyed most of season 1.
Yeah.
I am a huge nerd for the Next Generation cast, though. So
right.
Sad none of them showed up in this, but they were all doing like much more Shakespearean type shit at this. No. I'm sorry. They were actually doing Star Trek at this point. And
when did the season 2 come out?
Season 2 is 91, I think. And Next Generation started what, 87?
Yes.
That's right, because that's where we got the Captain Picard or Dr. Picard reference.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Well, the transporters and locking them in cages.
The ending to that was so fantastic, though.
Oh yeah.
Like
I'm gonna say it, but like Tuvok, the last one standing. Of course. It's logical sense. Killed everybody. Just don't get her turned on. Oh shit.
Damn it. she just pops. But yeah, what I think killed this show wasn't so much the lowbrow, the self-awareness, or the spotty acting. I think it was Rachel Talalay. I think
Gesundheit.
Rachel was working with Wes for the longest time on Nightmare, I think from part 2 or 3 on. And I think she finally got the director's chair for part 6 6. And when it got to her turn and they were trying to figure out what to do, she said, let's just kill him. And you know how much I fucking hate Dan Jurgens for saying that about Superman. And it's probably because she said it first, maybe around the same time. But like the let's just kill him thing happened. Freddy's Nightmares happened right around the same time as this. So there couldn't have been another season. They didn't want it to happen.
Yeah, through my research, I didn't really get a good, clear answer why it didn't continue. I mean, of course, there was the usual low ratings spiel, but like it's a syndicated show. Ratings for syndicated shows were really hard to gauge.
That's true. And this was during that point where Fox was starting their transition, really blossoming after Devin showed her tatas.
Love and the
Which you get call back. We just talked about Devin on this last episode of Suns and Shadows. Not Suns and Shadows. That's us.
0 point reviews. House Part 2, the second story,
and the housening, and back to the house. House forever.
House harder.
House harder. Oh gosh, I think it was Alec today that told me, maybe Norman, that said that they hadn't seen the House movies and now want to see 3 and 4. It's like, oh, did you hear what we said about 3 and 4?
Oh dear God, you poor boys.
Courage.
Stay strong, my friends. You can do it.
That's the neat thing about Misty type folks, though. We could watch horrible shit, and as long as it's not like really horrible, we can enjoy it. Again, much like the Tony Dow episodes, very self-aware. I thoroughly enjoyed myself laughing my ass off. I'm sure anyone else watching it would probably be like, this is fucking stupid. Please turn it off.
You mean kind of like the Silence is Golden episode with the mime?
Oh, but that was fun, though.
I appreciated their attempt. I did not appreciate the execution on that one. Freddy could have executed everybody in that episode, and it would have gotten more points from me on that.
So, since we're talking about fuck Bill Maher and House 2, the guy on this episode is pretty much kind of that same character where it's like they want him to be that Mr. Hot Topic fucking kind of person, or Hot Take, not Hot Topic, excuse me.
Shock jock.
Yeah. At least Howard, when Howard did shocking things, it was smart and funny. This guy just goes out there like fucking Martin Downey Jr. smoking a cigarette. I say what I think and I think what I say. What the fuck does that mean? I don't know, but fuck you. It's like, okay, that's just that. I'm glad that time
didn't
passed.
work for me. Yeah.
No. And this guy, that was his job. And he started getting too into it. That was the point of the series, or the point of the show. And his wife, who was a good person, kept trying to warn him, you're becoming too much of this character that you try to be on the show.
No, no, no. Don't touch that dial. Here's what's on my mind tonight.
And he keeps saying, okay, I'll be better. And he keeps doubling down on being a douchebag to everyone. Specifically, this poor mime that he accidentally punches.
Right.
Total accident. Meant to hit a guy that deserved to be hit a mime on accident. All that would have happened to end this episode is say, dude, I am so fucking sorry, and help the guy back up. But he acted like a douche for the rest of the episode.
Yeah, I just never got any better.
Yeah.
And so the mime ended up taking out the whole family. And then how do they follow that up? In the second half, they make him a human being who's just a lowly thief.
In a
What the
Speedo.
fuck? You made him a supernatural entity of sorts in the first half, and now you made him a human in the second half. Wow.
That's the moments where I was like, dude, the writing's getting kind of lazy.
Yeah.
They were
They
just
should have just
basically-
had him going after another set of assholes, you know?
right, or something coming after him, or
Yeah.
I don't know. It was not great. It was great that the actor got, another 45 minutes of show, but
Well, I liked his performance too. So it's not like I didn't appreciate the aspects of like, it's like, hey, at least you're getting use out of him and he can actually talk and actually get paid for his efforts on this episode. You know, he was able to get and show his range and have basically a whole episode kind of centered around him, even if it's in different aspects. But I did like a lot of that episode. I just felt like the execution in the second half was just, and you made a couple creative choices I didn't exactly agree with.
such as
Well, you made him a human being. for
oh
fuck's
yeah,
sake.
yeah, oh yeah.
And then you had his like girlfriend, you know, hooking up with the jewelry store owner, and her killing both of them and being like, I'm really Claire Endicott, and you really robbed
Oh.
my parents, and I got my own shit now, and fuck you all. Now I have my story straight.
That's right. I want to say that's when I texted you and you'd said something about being tired of love triangles, and I'm like, oh dude. I'm like, it doesn't
Yeah, that's like
stop.
7 episodes in, and there was more to come.
Yeah, and I don't want to keep hitting the nail on the head, but there is so much love triangle in this that it's like, come on, y'all. Did the focus group not find anything else out? Like the bumpers and stingers with Freddy that are all comedy, dark comedy, are gold. Like that's like 10 stars out of 10. Everything
Yeah.
else varies between 5 and I think maybe one episode was 7 stars. I don't know how.
I think the big problem is you had the first season, which had a nice variety for like an anthology and a Freddy series all kind of mixed together in one bag. And then you go to this season and you get less number of Freddy centered episodes and basically a cookie cutter template on how to do the next 12, 14 episodes. And then you got a couple that are completely different, like with the cannibal. It's like, were you told not to be creative at this point? Like, you got to just stick to the love triangle, just figure it out, because you got to crank these scripts out and get this thing shot. I don't know. It was very strange just seeing jilted lover this, jilted lover that, infidelity this, infidelity that. And of course, Freddy has the great jokes in between, but that's not enough to really carry episodes. And I'm not going to say I hate this season, but clearly I felt like it was a bit of a miss by comparison to season 1. What's so funny, Kevin? Care to share with the class?
I don't hate this season, but it can suck my ass.
Kevin with the descriptive inside voice next time, buddy. Inside voice.
I tried.
You couldn't hold it back, could you? The second I said that, I saw your face go, oh boy, I got a doozy for you.
Oh, goodness. Now I look sunburnt. Okay, root beer to recenter myself. I'm sorry.
Do you have any other kind of favorite episodes throughout this?
Oh, gosh, let me see. Yes. Well, no.
Ah.
One that I didn't like. This is kind of like your version of the six pack, but just much more minimal. The one episode I didn't really like, because I don't like such things, was the animal cruelty episode that they did. Which, let's just say this, there was animal cruelty spread very well throughout the entire season. So if you have squeamishness seeing against like hurt dogs, skeletons, things like that.
Oh, I know which episode you're talking about.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of this.
I hated that episode.
It was shocking, but it was fake looking enough that I was like, nah, they're making soup out of the dog.
Well, yeah, they didn't actually farm animals, but it certainly looked like they were doing that.
They used a pretty good looking skeleton with fur on it, and it was fake fur. It was very obviously fake, and it looked nothing like the actual Pekingese that they had on the episode. But it was shocking, and it was funny because the lady was supposed to be crazy, and she's like, oh, hey, heard what you said about me, here's your fucking soup. I root for Freddy, for those who don't know. But no, the scientist that kept wanting to experiment on the chimp, like the chimp had a great introduction on the first half of that show, or the first half of that episode, where the guy thinks he's getting alien transmissions and he's trying to decipher the code.
Oh, yeah.
And it turns out to be just the chimp next door trying to type his name out.
That was so good.
That had me dying. See, that's what I'm saying. Some of it was really good. And then the rest of it, you're like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to get up, maybe go take a piss and wait for Monsters or Friday the 13th to come on. Or if War of the Worlds is on next, let's just go to bed. But they had a point where the scientist kept wanting to experiment on this chimpanzee, that they were talking about being advanced and almost learning how to speak and communicate, which was a really big thing for the time. I know Michael Crichton had just published Congo recently at the time. So, I mean, that was probably something that they were talking about or influenced by. But they kept trying to get him not to shock this thing for cancer treatment. And he kept doing it more to spite himself. Like, the more he hated himself for doing it, the more he shocked it to like make himself feel like he was like doing something good for humanity, to the point where the episode ends with the chimp looking at him. So it's kind of a first person view, not understanding why the guy is going to kill him. And you're thinking to yourself, well, obviously the guy is going to get it. The scientist is going to get killed at the end. That's how this always happens. No, it ends with the scientist torturing the chimp to death. And it ends with Freddy very seriously saying, everybody dreams. Think about it. And the screen goes black and you're like, fuck, I just got feels. I didn't fucking pay for that with this show. What the hell?
And you just made your audio go crazy
Didn't
by
need that in
smashing
the-
the desk.
God damn it.
That
I didn't pay for that for this show.
well, and Robert Englund directed that episode.
So it was a personal thing. I see. Kind of like with Nimoy and Part 4 Star Trek. Yeah. Well,
I mean, Star Trek 3. That was Nimoy.
was it? It wasn't 3 and 4?
4, dude.
What? I was there. I don't know who fucking directed it. I'm just a blip on the screen.
As long as we don't talk about Star Trek 5 and William Shatner, we are gold.
I don't talk about Shatner. He wasn't there when they were filming, and I'm cool with that. But George and Gracie are still hanging on the ceiling of the hanging from the ceiling of the Monterey Bay Aquarium.
True, very true.
Anyway, 0 point review back to Nightmare on Elm Street, since that's all wonderful things. I did not realize that. I probably should have looked, and I meant no offense if he ever hears this, but I
Probably none.
didn't like.
He
the
just did the
chimpanzee
directing
getting
duties.
killed.
It doesn't say that he wrote it or anything like that.
Well, he ended it really well. Like, it kind of made you be like, huh, very un-Freddy, but I felt what he said, which I guess made it un-Freddy. Like, it wasn't funny or flashy. It was actually
Probably with the intention to make it stand out. Be a
yeah,
little more potent.
yeah.
Because I did get that impression a couple times. I can't pinpoint every episode, but like there were some times when it ended and he had his little quip, and it's like, ooh, that's actually really good. That'll leave an impression on somebody. Like, it'll make you think for a split second instead of, hey, that's a great singer.
Yeah, kind of. Well, I mean, that was the neat thing about these were all cautionary tales. So, I mean, some
Yeah.
of them you could make light, and others you kind of like you said with the cannibals. You shouldn't eat people. You don't know where they've been.
And also, don't hire the Springwood Moving Company.
They will misplace your boxes and fuck your wife.
Yep. we had talked about making a commercial for it, but it's like it ended up being way too racy.
Well, that's all they did. Like, this guy's in every single home using the same line on every single new housewife that moves into Springwood. Oh, funny, you being new here and me being a native. It's like, okay, you know he has HPV, right? Like, like it's just written across his forehead.
What, you don't got a problem with that? I'm married. You don't have a problem with that? Hey, I don't get wrapped up in details. It's just a good time. It's like, dude, bro, like you got some game to be swinging that dick around like that.
The lady, she just told him, I don't want AIDS.
Well, and the worst part is half the women would look at him like, you are cute, but and it's like, oh, you already are going to hell for that one.
Kinda. Like,
because they all have this. Some of them had that smirk, like, yeah, he's pretty hot, maybe. And he'd try and hook up with the single ladies too. But his one big bust was the apartment lady who was doing the letters through time with God. I don't exactly remember how that went, but she found like this secret little nook where letters were, and she found herself going into the past and getting into a love triangle. And I'm just like, oh dear God, shoot me already.
yeah, and then she'd like give all the sex details to the old lady living next door, and the old lady's sitting there like,
plenty.
Yeah, like there was starting to be like mud dripping where there was dust before. She was all interested in this stuff, and
awkward.
Yeah, and I'm thinking to myself, I'd written it down in the notes, she has to be the spurned lady, like waiting to get revenge on reincarnated chick, and it turned out to be none of that. Like, did it even say what happened to the older lady?
Nope. Quite a few times they would leave just threads like completely out in the open and dangling. Was she going to come back in season 3? Who the hell knows?
I would have liked to see Greta come back in season 3, but obviously that's not going to happen.
They would have had to have retconned that.
It would
But then again, there was times here and there it would feel like they retconned something like Oliver, oh, I used to work at a photographer and with all these hot women until the photographer went blind. And it's like,
that was cool.
I'm into crystals. Your aura is red.
Oh yes, their caricaturization of hippies, new age people, punk, stoners. Yeah, some of it was
it checks.
It checks. Look, just because I have my vape pen plugged into my system here, just so it charges while we work.
Just keep it going.
No, I mean, some of those little episode moments like that, I did enjoy that. Like the photographer who really wanted to work with real models as opposed to taking family portraits and like being berated every time someone's like, oh, you used to be somebody? Yeah. Thanks, fucker.
For the reminder, fuck off.
Like, she was going to get stomach cancer from drinking one way or the other, but like, she didn't mind making that deal with Freddy, getting those intense shots of torture and stuff like that. Basically, snuff film pics that Freddy was offering up to advance her career. And by the end of the day, making her deal with the devil, Freddy gouges her eyes out, and it shows it pretty well. For TV, they showed it really well at the time.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, that was like anytime there was a Freddy-centric episode, those were really good. And basically you got like the very first episode, Dreams Come True, and then you got Photo Finish, which is the one we were just talking about. And then it rolls right on into episode 11, Dreams That Kill, and episode 12, It's My Party and You'll Die If I Want To. Those are all of your Freddy-centric episodes where he actually plays a role in them. And whenever he's involved, those stand out. Those are really good. There's only 4 in 22 episodes of this season.
Yeah, they were a lot better meshing that together in the first season. Yes, there were 6 in the first season, but it felt like there was more. It felt like Freddy was inducing dreams that various people would have. There was none of that in this. There was like someone was getting into a situation where they're tempted by sin or they would sin, and they'd have like 3 or 4 different dreams of like how their actions fucked them over or were gonna fuck them over. And then at the very end, they'd get fucked over in some weird, wacky way that you would have never, ever thought of. And sometimes that worked out really, really well. Other times you're just kind of like, yawn. You guys did this last episode or the first half 15 minutes ago.
Yeah, I mean, like you were talking about, the first season easily feels like Freddy is a puppet master. He's got his fingerprints all over everything. And in the second season, it's more like, I'm just kind of a host. I'll just tell you what's going on, and you'll see what kind of fucked upness this gets. And then when I show up in my episodes, then the real party starts.
Kind of, yeah. And they did. Going back to that psychic, she was fantastic imitating Robert. So good with his mannerisms.
I would have thought he would have directed that particular episode, because then he could have a little more hand in like, hey, make sure you act and emote like this, and get a little more dramatic with the arms and swing that arm wide when you cut that neck.
Kinda, yes. And let's get that right hand up in the air, because it's got to be next to my face. If it's not next to my face, it's up above my head, ready to come down at your face.
Right.
That, though, there was a lot more Freddy action not Freddy action. Of course, there's Freddy action. There was a lot more glove action. Less Freddy episodes, but there was a lot more glove impaling things, cutting things off, ripping things apart, ripping things open. Like, he was all over it with the glove this season. And I was about that. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Because actually, I really think you got to see it more than you really do in some of the movies.
A little bit.
Or some of it was implied to be just as gruesome as it was in the movies. I know there was a couple episodes where it's, again, we talked about the castration last season. Pretty sure he did that this season too. And then shoved his glove up somebody's ass once or twice.
Up there, woohoos.
Well, the talk show host, the final talk show host that got stuck in his mind, and they're saying, oh, he's in a coma and he can't dream or anything. But no, he was dreaming full time and everything was hurting him. and no one was listening to the one doctor that says, oh, look, the alpha waves are moving.
Yeah.
That went neat and then went downhill after a time, but it was fun. The kid that was playing the meshed version of the talk show host and the young biker punk, he did a pretty good job of impersonating that actor. He did a really good job of it.
Is that the memory overload one?
I think so.
No,
yes.
That's a different one.
No,
I'm thinking of the one with the English professor as the booze hound and having daddy issues.
Oh, that wasn't bad.
He deserted the army. That was actually a really good one.
Yeah, that was a decent enough story. It had a nice ending. Well, it had a horrible ending, but it was a nice, horrible ending. Like it, finding out that he was that hallucination and that he's just constantly living this cycle of time. That's one thing. But when he wakes up and realizes that it was all just in his head and that student was him, and he had that dream of being a good person, being reformed and being clean, and he wakes up and he's a loser again. He's still addicted to booze. He's still addicted to drugs.
And repeats the cycle over and over and over again.
Yeah, and it seems excessive, but no, like that's real day life or everyday life for people that suffer addiction and stuff and anxiety problems.
Yeah, just another example of some really, when the writing was good, it was excellent.
Yes. Yeah, and it was just hard to tell when that was going to be, because the second half of that episode was one of the students from the class, wasn't it?
Millie.
Yes. Was it Millie?
Or no, Barbara? Barbara.
Okay, that's right. I was going to say, because Millie shows up 2 or 3 times, I think. One of which, I don't know if it was the first or not, was in the credit card episode where the lady was...
Oh, God, the credit card episode, yeah.
Millie's boss was picking and choosing who got loans and who got credit increases and stuff. And she's just a horrible bitch. So Millie gets her brother to go hit on her, and her brother's got horrible credit because like he's into gambling and shit and has a lot of books with his name on it over his head. And he gets her to fix his credit and then gets her pissed off. So she ruins his credit after that and then makes her change his mind, like total fucking yo-yoing her emotions.
Pretty much.
And then finally it ends with, well, God, how did it end? Because Millie gets her job at the end. I remember that.
Yes.
Did the computer have her arrested? Because the computer was supposed to be like Joe Friday narrating everything.
Yeah, if I remember right, basically what happens at the end is Millie admits, I programmed that computer to turn on and to do all these sorts of things. And then the computer turned back on because it was going to meet up with the Macintosh. And I just wrote down, somebody got the idea for Terminator here. Rise of the Machines, yo.
I hated that movie so much. Actually,
we don't have to talk about that. We can move on.
I know. 0 point. Oh, I was like, what am I looking at here? The Family Affair. Another love triangle. The guy that hires the hitman to kill his wife. That was weird.
That is one I had so little notes on. I just basically wrote, this is stupid. Another love triangle.
Oh, let's see. I got dude hires a hitman to nab his crazy mistress, kills his wife, he kills her, son into smack, dude cheats death, gets extra week, death took son, lol.
Yep.
Like, I liked that. You know, he cheats at everything. And that was kind of I don't remember what German tale it was, but the guy that basically cheats death at cards and gets him stuck in his sack, basically.
Right.
That's kind of what that felt like that was leaning towards, but then it switched at the very second because they ran out of time and budget, where his punishment for cheating death wasn't just the extra week where he had time to figure out how to get out of it. It's that his son died instead, and that's how he got the extra week. You're like, well, okay, that still doesn't make the deal right, but okay. Lazy writing. I don't know. I'm not into the whole adultery thing. So that's where the whole love triangle thing kind of like makes my eye twitch.
I know. Well, in the previous episode was the Funhouse one, and I'm like, another love triangle for fuck's sake. Ex-husband wants back, so he basically sets up a house trap. And they got this. You got Turk from the Springwood Moving Company again, and they finally get him involved in a woman, and the husband's wife, and then he gets involved with the maid, and then it's all over the place in that episode, and I'm just like, I feel like I'm watching a video game from like the 90s called Night Trap. Because it's like they set up the house as a trap in a stage to be actors, and I'm just like, oh, I can't do any more of these. I was already so worn out at that point on the love triangle thing.
Yes, that's where it went from this could be interesting to no, we're a Chuck Palahniuk novel. The end. That was weird. Okay.
Yeah.
Method acting to the nth degree, but it wasn't
including killing.
Yeah, like, so okay. But the way that started with the rich guy that had the adulterous wife that loved her so much that he let her have her lover because they loved each other in a different way than conventionally, but she still needed basically sex. So they let Hank stay, or was it Turk? Yeah, they let Turk live there, and he misinterprets the roles basically and has an affair with the maid. And the husband finds out, takes it wrong, and, and tricks him into killing the wife. They should have just left it at that. That was fun. I dug that. Because more or less, that's kind of how George Reeves was killed. He was having an affair with Eddie Mannix's wife in real life. And that was all good and fine until George started fucking a woman named Lorraine Lemon, I believe her name was, Eleanor Lemon. Anyway, that pissed off Eddie Mannix's wife, and Maddox had George Reeves killed for that. That's kind of where I thought this was going to go. And it was so different there at the end, changing to like a Chuck Palahniuk type novel that was not good or interesting.
Yeah, that it started off interesting, but fell flat in the end. So
it kind of like the bravo, good job. Like, wait, what?
And then the milk delivery boy, just to continue the story, I'm like, oh God, please don't do a part 3 to this. That's where you could have really lost me. But, you know, as it is, we got 2 pretty solid seasons of this show. And first was clearly great. I mean, we're big fans. There was only just a handful of episodes that were kind of misses in the first season. This season, kind of the flip of that. Like, still decent rating at times when it worked, to even really good writing. But when it was bad, it was pretty bad. It was pretty lazy. And you got a handful of episodes that were really great and a bunch that were mid, and then the rest that were just horrible and didn't really need to be there. I almost feel like you could have had season 2 be 13 episodes and it would have been pretty good for it.
Kind of, yeah. Or if something like this, getting back to what we were talking about, doing this again in modern society, do a more serious or darker tone for this show could work.
Yeah.
Do you hear clacking and clattering out back?
No.
Okay, hold on 1 second. It sounds like somebody going up and down the street on a fucking skateboard.
I don't really hear that.
Thank God. So we were talking about Funhouse and how much that was over the top. No, you were talking about how pretty solid last season was and how it was intermittent in this season and spread apart. And I said, to your point, what we were talking about earlier, they could have condensed this into a funnier, shorter season with just the episodes that had Freddy, and that could be your HBO Max type series. Excuse me, Max. Your Max type series where Freddy's hosting an anthology series, but he's the puppeteer for it. That could work, but all the filler episodes that they did in this season, not so much.
Yeah.
Last season worked a lot better for how it could work today.
I could not agree more. Kevin, I don't suppose you did any sort of six-packing for this?
No, I was so confused.
No, that's okay.
Like everything
I
was
can-
so spread out.
Yeah, I mean, the other option is we go episode by episode breakdown in future for something like this. But at that point, we're talking love triangle, bad. Love triangle, bad. Love triangle, interesting. Love triangle, bad. Love triangle, bad. Love triangle, hey, there you go. With the Greta episodes.
Yes.
I mean, Hannibal once the love triangle, it wasn't really much of a love triangle. Because even his fiance, there really wasn't much going on between the.
No, she was just kind of that fun side character, like
She got friend zone, bro.
a little bit, yeah. But she had that great moment where they were looking for the fucking escaped convict, and the
Yep.
dog is searching around with nothing, and the lady burps, or the fiance burps, and the dog goes running up to her like, "Oh, hey!"
Well, I then like how the follow-up episode started with them at Cannibals Anonymous in their trailer park. And I'm just like, oh, this is too funny.
They got ran out of town.
And they felt so jilted from it too. It was crazy.
That was every bit as entertaining right there as the fucking group therapy scene from fucking She-Hulk. Like, I dug that so much with the three of them talking.
Yeah, those are some of my favorite episodes of the batch.
You know, I can't say that they're the best, but they'd probably be my favorites. They just, again, they're the ones that I remember the most.
Yeah.
Overall, that and the episodes with the vet and Lori Petty. But the Tony Dow episodes just make me laugh. The cheesiness of the vampire. Like, when she's got
Oh, that was great.
the cape on and the one piece looking like Gina Davis in Transylvania 5000.
Yep.
They had her like skipping about. Like, I thought she was going to be like dancing in Faust or some shit. It was so over the top. It was very, community theater. Yes, that's a good way to put it. Community theater.
That's when I knew something was amiss with the whole vampire thing. And at the very end, it's like, oh, I get what's going on now. You're ripping off Airplane.
Is that what happened in the original Airplane?
Or no, I'm probably thinking of something else. It's another air flight movie where they crashed and they had to resort to cannibalism.
Oh, K2 or something.
I don't remember the name. So if somebody does remember that, please let us know. Because I will forget to look it up after we're done recording. So
There's a riff about it at the beginning of MST, the movie. Oh, there's soccer
Okay.
teams all over this mountain.
oh.
That's what the joke is.
I haven't watched that in a long time.
It riff for riff, you're gonna have fun throughout the whole thing.
Oh yeah.
More so than this. But anyway, what was your six-pack challenge? Were you able to, because this is like a crazy conspiracy theory map of strings trying to connect who's in what episode.
I mean, I had another 6 episodes to get rid of. Otherwise, there was quite a few I really enjoyed. But I'll just do another round of 6. I'll start with episode 13. What you don't know can kill you. That's when the doctor was trying to sleep with one of his patients, the psychiatrist who was hypnotizing, and he had and then he ended up having another one of his patients hypnotized accidentally kill him because he was dyslexic and misread the room numbers on the door. And let's see, after that, the 2 interior loft episodes, I liked neither of them.
Agreed.
Period. The first one is basically the Richu Diaries kind of rip off where it's a murder mystery, phone sex operator, blah blah blah. She creates a message and a cop becomes a big fan and then tries to kill her. Then he ends up dying. Then in the next half, she turns around and she's like this vindictive evil bitch herself. And don't read my story or you're gonna die. It was a big thing.
Yeah.
And then basically the second one of those was just so bad with the statue artists. The roomies killing roomies thing. I just wrote ugh next to that episode.
That's I hate beatniks. That's just, and that's what they were. Like the dude in the fucking bathtub beatnik.
Right.
And art. He's the answer to that question. What is art?
What is art. Okay, and then I had A Family Affair. We already talked about that one. That can get stricken from the record. Then basically the last 2 episodes, Prisoner of Love with the Death Row Women and Sleeping with the Priest. Didn't like that one. And the priest ends up getting shipped to Cleveland. You're welcome. And the second one, Life Sentence, it was basically another prison episode, and I didn't like that one either.
Wait, he got sent to Cleveland? Is that what happened at the end of that?
At the first one, he was shipped off to Cleveland.
I don't remember that. But at this point, I'd kind of checked
Because he got shot by the guy who had money. Because he had the one lady in solitary confinement. And so she was making a deal like, I'll give you the money. And, you know, if you...
I thought the guy just straight up killed him. And she got basically left by herself.
Oh, he got shot and got put in a box, and the shipping label was to Cleveland.
Oh, that's right.
And then she was still locked in solitary confinement, screaming at her former enemy to, I forgive you. Please forgive me. Please forgive me.
That was okay.
And then the second one, I don't know.
The only part of that I really liked, because again, I don't like the whole adultery thing. I didn't like it in fucking Exorcist, where Father Tomas was having the affair with the chick that he used to know back in the day.
Right.
When he just like really falls for this chick quick. Like she bats her eyelashes at him twice at best. And he's like, yeah, fuck God. Hooray.
Yep.
She gets him basically by getting him in a position where they're gonna dry humping, and she cries rape, and he's like, what are you doing? And she's like disheveling her hair and going, sorry, really sorry about this. Rape, guard. And it's like, oh, bitch. But at the same time, it's like, dude, what the fuck did you expect? She's not an angel.
She's a psychotic bitch.
Yeah. Like,
there's a reason she's on death row, yo.
I don't know if you caught it or not, just sidetrack more or less, but they let out one of the Manson girls recently. This is kind of one of those things, like, consider her to being one of those freak ass people, not somebody you want to, like, you know, rub up with or have the rest of the fucking cell block hearing you fucking making out with or fucking whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, how nobody heard those two getting it on is beyond me.
They're not allowed to listen.
Gotcha.
So, like, do the people at the adjacent cells like have to go? I don't know.
Well, they probably do a sing-along session with it. So,
Kumbaya. I don't know. I didn't really care for those segments. They weren't the worst, but they most certainly weren't the best. And like I said before, I wouldn't have ended with them.
Yeah, but you know, and not to say I did not have a good time with the show. It felt a bit long, I would say, largely because the repetitive nature of some of the episodes. Now, in a binge fashion, this is probably not the way to watch this show. Best way to watch this particular season is probably watch a couple here and there every week, just do it that way. Do not try and sit through and try and binge as many episodes as you can in a row within the span of a few days. That is a bad way to watch this show because you will get seriously freaking bored with it.
Yep, and road rash like a motherfucker. So
Yep.
Episodically, once a week, treat yourself, light some scented candles, some Kleenex and some lotion. This show could be okay. Binge it, and you just want it to end. And that's...
You want to fast forward.
Yeah, and I feel bad because I did like this. And if this ever comes out on disc, I will buy it. But
Oh, yeah, me too.
I did not find myself enjoying the last few hours of this show.
Yeah, that's ultimately where it kind of like fell flat for me, was the last, like, except for the cannibal episodes, like basically like the last 5 or 6 episodes, I was just like, can I just be done already? And I feel bad saying that, so please don't take us as saying like the show completely sucks. It doesn't. Freddy's segments alone are worth checking out every episode.
Yes, even when they're preachy.
Yep, bingo.
Which, I mean, it was the 90s. Just the 90s. So, I mean, people in the 80s always had pet projects trying to save this, help that, do whatever. This was okay.
Yeah. And on the whole, did you enjoy both seasons, Kevin? Would you recommend people go check it out?
Yes, absolutely. It's no longer on Tubi. but we do have links up for it, that it is on the Internet Archive. It looks like you're watching it back in 1998 or 1998, 1991, 1988. It's really crappy quality. It looks like you're watching it on VHS. That adds to the authenticity for me. I really like it. It may feel weird if it ever gets put on disc, being like clear and focused, but I love this. Nightmare on Elm Street's one of my favorite franchises of all time. Robert Englund is one of my favorite actors of all time. He's just fascinating to watch work.
Yeah. I'd also throw out, if they took these exact episodes and cleaned them up, you'd also get little commercials at the end of some of the episodes for like the Cosby Show and Who's the Boss.
I wasn't going to bring it
there
up.
were original aired episodes that were clearly, recorded on a videotape, and they converted them digitally and uploaded them there. So that's probably why they're allowed to be up there, because they're such bad quality and like basically original broadcast copies.
Is that a nipple or an elbow? Who cares? It looked a lot.
It's a little
like
too
that.
fuzzy. Adjust the tracking. Oh wait,
Just the tracking. Oh, I haven't said that in a long ass time. But no, I dig this. As a whole, it's fantastic. I did not like this as a kid. I'm glad we got to go back and rewatch it as an adult. I appreciated it more now.
Yeah.
I think I understood more. I could watch it during the day and not be dead ass tired at night. I did not let my kids watch any of this series at all. They got to watch the house movies, but no, they weren't. This is fun. If you're a Nightmare on Elm Street fan, if you haven't seen this, check it out. Don't go into it looking for Nightmare on Elm Street 3, 4, or 5 at all. No, this is a lot more Twilight Zone or Night Gallery.
oh yeah.
Mixed with Red Shoe Diaries and Taxi Cab Confessions and pretty much everything else that's
I
happened.
was gonna
after
say I
Tupac.
didn't remember many more names that were appropriate for that. So
Skinamax, softcore porn. This was good times for Friday night for being 11 years old.
Oh,
I'm sorry. I'm not a bad person. I just
no, but you play one on TV because you stayed in a Holiday Inn Express last night.
Holiday Express. I left something in the mattress. Guess who it is? I mean, what it is. They didn't have any of
Course.
that. No burying people or sewing people up in mattresses.
That could have been interesting.
But there was really nothing of. Was none of the fun. Tony Dow, but none of the episodes like we had with Jeffrey Combs. That episode with the Luigi's Pizza was fucking hysterical. And it just kept getting funnier and
Yes.
funnier. Episode 20, Tony Dow's final episode, where they were kind of just doing the Night of the Comet thing. That was really
Yep.
funny, but not as.
Good point. Got anything else for us, Kevin, before I wrap this up?
I do. I have
Oh,
social posts. We got a little bit extra social this week.
sweet.
Our friend Mongolian Chop said this was his first exposure to Freddy Krueger. I wanted to correspond back, and unfortunately I didn't get a chance to, so you're going to have to write in and tell us, what was that like, having this be your first experience with Freddy? And you don't have to say exactly, but roughly how old were you? Because again, I was 11 at the time, and the scenes that Freddy was in, I was totally there for. And unless it was like eating people or track runners or beautiful vampires in their chonies, I remember nothing of this at the time. I could repeat every line from any of the movies, but this, it was lost on me. So what was this like, being the first exposure to Freddy? And then where did you go after this? How long did it take for you to go, hey, I want to see what the rest of this is about? Or were you like, this is fucking lame? That's my question. And then next was Dave Gold. And Dave brought up some good points, and I wanted to say, maybe a correction. He said the plot was amazing. Or excuse me, not the plot, the pilot. The plots were shit.
Yeah.
Sorry. Dave's
No, he's not sorry.
Dave's a lot smarter than that. The plot was not good. The pilot was he said the pilot was amazing. The series was rubbish. Other way around. I think for me personally, the pilot was dog shit and the rest of it was pretty good. Not great by any means whatsoever. Some of it was, but as a whole, no, it was just pretty good. That pilot was really neat to me, being able to see Freddy before the burns, being able to see the witch hunt, basically. But the acting in it was so bad. Like, I expected porno music to start playing any moment. And
like through half of the episodes of the entire show.
Once they finally got going and what this show was really about was the fucking the dry humping. No, I mean, he's right in a way. The pilot episode did have a little bit of charm to it because, again, that's that first Freddy episode. That's what tied it together. And then they kind of went up and down roller coaster style with the stories. Sometimes it was really good. Sometimes it was really bad. Sometimes you had a great story with a bad actor in it. And you're just kind of like, this is awkward. So the episode with Jack, that was really awkward. We keep our baby in the basement. It's been 2 years since we've seen her. Didn't you realize?
She killed everybody.
Like, that was... And that was it for social. But I did wanted to read those two because, again, thank you guys very much for taking time to write in and listen. And, again, they were just good points that I wanted to touch back on.
No, excellent points, good questions, and good discussion on Freddy's Nightmares. One thing I do want to throw out there is if you're looking for a very good in-depth podcast that covers each of the episodes, every facet regarding Freddy's Nightmares, I'm going to send you to freddysnightmares.com. It's a pretty good podcast. They basically call themselves Welcome to Primetime, a Freddy's Nightmares retrospective podcast.
Neat.
Go check them out. They're also on Facebook. We recently got in touch with them, and I wanted to give them a shout out. They got a fun podcast over there.
I dig it. So if I said anything that just like completely offended you on these episodes, truly sorry. But,
It's how it goes.
My foot's in my mouth through half of these episodes anyway.
This is true. And you still have a shoelace sticking out the corner of your mouth there, buddy.
That's why I'm changing my last name to Aglet. Call back to the Exorcist episode. Come on.
All right. Thank you, Screamers, for checking out Suns and Shadows, because we don't stop till the screaming starts. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you all next time.
Oh, no. I mean, who needs to read a book about dreams when you can experience a nightmare in full, living color?
Make sure you check us out on all of our social media platforms. We got Facebook, Twitter. We are at Suns and Shadows. We're also on Instagram at Suns and Shadows Cast. We are at SunsAndShadows.com. Thank you again, everybody, and we'll see you down the road.